come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been going up and we're doing this for life. Ain't about the cash, well then you can step aside. Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? Rich Miller here. I'm an artist, producer, engineer out of Virginia. I wanted to come back at you with a piggyback video from my last video where I go talk about some of the stuff in vocal mixing. I'll show you how I mix the vocals that I played in the intro. And yeah, I want to show you some of these techniques. I really think, you know, the thought process and the techniques are really important for everybody to know, and that people quite frequently get wrong. So let's talk about it. Let's hash it out. And just FYI, on January 3rd, I'm dropping my next album called The Rise of an Empire. I urge you to go check that out. I hope you do. It's going to be on all streaming platforms, Apple Music, Spotify. I'll post shorts about it here on my YouTube, or I'll post stuff on my Instagram about it closer to that date at ill.rich. So please go check that out. Support me. I would love that. I'm trying to get you guys the best content that I possibly can. And I want to show you guys really how I dive into these mixes, how I think about my vocal mixes, and what we can do to improve your vocal mixes. Now, before we begin, I'd like to take just 1 or 2 minutes to talk about what it is we're going to be doing, and to think about what it is we need to accomplish when we think about vocal processing. And if you'd like to skip ahead, I'll leave chapter marks down below. However, I do think this is important. What makes a vocal a good vocal? First thing that I think about is I want my vocals to be clean. And if you can't read the notes that I'm taking on the board, I do apologize. I'll do my best to write it with the mouse. The next thing I want to think about is I like my vocals to be upfront. I'd like them to be competitive. We might like to control the dynamics. And what does that mean exactly? And then perhaps, you know, maybe we can talk about, you know, magic combinations. You know, mixing and art kind of go hand in hand. There are things that can be a little bit mysterious. You know, things that just kind of are the way that they are. There's a million combinations of things you can do. So let's explore maybe what, you know, what has been done in the past and how we can apply that to what we're doing. And I think the last one I'd like to touch upon is that I want it to be, my vocals to be complementary. I want them to complement my mix, okay? Clean. What does clean mean? Well, I'd like to take care of, you know, the sibilants, the plosives, any sort of low-end rumble, so that my compressors or anything that's going to be reacting to my audio signal is not necessarily going to be reacting to those parts that we don't like. As far as upfront goes, I'd like my vocals to be loud in the mix, enough that, you know, that they're loud and clear and they're not buried. I like them to be competitive. So how can we achieve a sound that is kind of modern? Control the dynamics. Now, that can mean some different things to different people. What I think about controlling the dynamics is that for my mixes are usually very dense and have a lot of low-end 808 stuff, a lot of dense music. I want them to be kind of at least never getting lost in my mix. I'd like them to be kind of just loud enough to where they never get lost by the music or the 808s, excuse me. But to some people that might mean, you know, I want a lot of dynamic range, right? Like some opera singers, you know, can go really, really quiet, or they can be really, really loud. And we got to take that into effect. You know, how much is our compressors going to be working? How much should we tame? Well, we need to find a happy medium to where they don't get lost in the mix. We don't lose some of that kind of emotion. Magic combinations, we'll touch upon that in the later part of the video. And complementary. So when I think about complementing the music, maybe just some EQ changes, maybe some effects or delays, reverbs, reverb throws, anything that we can add that's kind of additive that will kind of help us make, you know, a mix that is pleasing to listen to. Okay, that is what I have for this. So I'm going to switch back into Ableton, and I really do think this is important for us to talk about. So if you did stick along with this, hopefully that made sense to you of kind of what it is we're trying to achieve. And let's dive back in the mix. Okay, here we are inside of the project that I played at the beginning of this video. What I'd like to show you guys is that I have here stripped all the plugins off of this recording. I've soloed it, so it's actually just the raw recorded audio. And I'm going to talk about how I'd like to treat it. I'm going to try to touch upon those bullet points that we made earlier. and you know, possibly even explore maybe using some AI plugins to achieve this. You know, now that we have these starting to become available to us, we can look at some of those as well. So the first thing that I think about when I look at this vocal is I'd like to clean it up. I'd like to handle any sibilance, anything that's going to be reacting to my compressors that I wouldn't necessarily like it to. I wouldn't really want a compressor to be reacting on a bunch of low end and you know, and slamming it harder than it actually needs to be, because it's actually not, the needle's not moving to the vocal piece that I want it to react to record. It's like, you know, if there's a bunch of rumble, it would be reacting to that. So let's handle that. The first thing I'd like to put on this is a de-esser. And let me start by saying, although this is unconventional, I do strongly recommend mixing into like a clipper or a limiter to raise the level, the overall level of the thing that you're working on before you start working on it. This will kind of make you avoid, you know, throwing 20 different plugins thinking that you're making it better, but really you're just adding volume to it, and perhaps it's unnecessary. So I'm actually just going to bring it to the ceiling first before that I work on it. I know that's not really conventional, and I used to intern with Chris Lord Algae. You know, I know Jason Joshua, Manny American, Andrew Sheps, and all these guys Josh Goodwin, who I admire very much, necessarily wouldn't do the same thing, but I'm just giving you my approach, and I really think it's actually a good approach, and I think people will maybe start adopting this as I bring it up, because you can't really lose. Hey, everything that I'm gonna affect the vocal with now, I'm gonna be able to hear better, and I know that at the loudest this audio signal can get inside my DAW, it's gonna be clean, and it's gonna the effects that I put on it will translate to a loud mix, which is not a bad thing. So what I've done is I put this plugin called G-Clip on my lead vocal bus. You can ignore most of the stuff. This is the only vocal track that we're going to be paying attention to, and it goes into this lead bus, and these are the only two things that are really active. All this stuff doesn't have anything else on it. And this G-Clip plugin is giving 12 decibels of gain, and it's on the soft clip mode, so you shouldn't hear much digital distortion. It's actually not really giving a lot of gain reduction. It's just kind of pushing this audio signal to the ceiling of this fader, and I'll show you what I mean by that.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise, trying to come along, we'll just hop up.
You can see the audio level is kind of pushed towards the ceiling, as opposed to it being down here.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we
Negative 12. You know, I prefer to record it, you know, whatever. So there you go. That's all that's doing. Just raising the volume so that I can make decisions based off of that. The first thing I want to do is apply a de-esser. I'm going to handle some of the sibilance and some of the stuff that's going to be reacting to the compressor that I wouldn't necessarily like it to. So let's take a listen to this.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise, trying to come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been, all my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the.
You can tell when I bring the threshold down, with the volume being as loud as it is, that it actually becomes fairly dull with this de-esser.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the.
But it is definitely cleaner. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the type of this, and because I've already messed with this.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise, trying to come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been going up, and we're doing this for life.
I'm gonna, as I swept through that, I was kind of listening to it, and I think when this frequency is at 2500,
all my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise.
It's kind of giving it a quality where it's taking some of that mud out, and I think I can massage this in a way that's gonna make it sound good. And I'll show you the before and after.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise, trying to come along.
To me, it just gives it this kind of more expensive low end and high end, and just kind of scoops some of that mid range out. Okay. So the next thing, so in terms of cleanliness, we could also look at AI plugins, you know, i.e. Soothe, to take some of this harshness away. Now, there are times where I like to use this plugin, and there are times where I don't. It gives it a certain tone, and you got to make sure you mess with this resolution and the oversampling. And I know it's really heavy of a plugin on your CPU, so I don't tend to use it all the time for those reasons. But you can definitely get a good tone out of this.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise.
Now, considering our first bullet was to talk about cleaning it up, I'll leave this on here as an option for us to explore. Now, the next thing I would think about when I'm treating this vocal is controlling the dynamics. You're making it more upfront, making sure that it doesn't get lost in the mix. So naturally, my hand would go towards a compressor, and my personal favorite compressor is a CL1B. And also, I will touch upon the magical combinations that I talked about earlier. Now, there's more that I'd like to show you at the end, but I feel like, you know, if you've been around long enough, you know that one of the magical combinations that is commonly used in recording is the Sony C800G that goes into a Neve 1073. That could totally be the wrong number. A Neve preamp that goes into a CO1B, and that's just this kind of recording chain has just been used and used time and time again. And that's kind of one of these magical combinations that is what I was trying to brush upon in the beginning. That there are sometimes just things that work, and it's good to know what those are, and that is one of them. So I'm gonna go take this CO1B that I have from SoftTube. I'm gonna apply this, and then I'm gonna show you a few things about compression very quickly that I would think about when I'm compressing this vocal. Now, I personally gravitate towards compressors for their tone, the 1176, the CLA 2A, anything you could think of, you know, the Shadow Hills perhaps. Each kind of have a different, they react differently, they kind of drive, you know, they saturate a little bit differently if they're analog, you know, they have different qualities. And I like the quality that this one gives, and I'm going to show you what I would do with it and how I would think about doing with it. The first thing I'd like to show you is that if I take this threshold all the way down to -40, you'll notice that my audio completely pretty much disappears. And if I have a really slow release and I take the threshold back down, okay. That's kind of a bad example because that took forever for the release to come back in. So I'm going to actually drag this down maybe to halfway. I'm going to do this again, slam it down to -40. And that pulled the threshold back down to off. And you can see that it took about 1, 2, or 3 seconds for that release to kick back in. I'll do it again.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Trying to come along, we'll just hop up.
That maybe is a 3-second release on this plugin right about here. And that's generally like you would, if you were to listen to that, right, in an extreme way.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Trying to come along, we'll just...
It's really quiet, and then it gets louder, and it's like, well, that's, you know, very drastic, and that's not going to be any good for us. Like, we wouldn't ever want it to be, like, really quiet and then take a long time for it to come back to be full volume. Like, that's never going to be useful for us, really. So what I'm going to kind of do is take this release down to a more fast setting, and I'll show you what that does with the threshold.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on
right now it's slammed, and if I bring the threshold back,
hop up in the ride.
You'll notice that immediately it comes back to full volume. Okay, so our compressor's reacting more quickly, and that's going to be good. So now if we put the threshold down just a little bit.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Trying to come along, we'll just hop up in the ride.
It's not taking the compressor a really long time for it to get back to full volume after it compresses, which is going to be good in our case. So for the attack, we can see if I make the attack very quick, bring the threshold.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Trying to come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been going up and we're doing this for life.
You'll notice that once the audio wave hits the threshold, it kind of slowly grips it and then comes back because the release is quick, so it'll slowly grip it and then come back. So it actually introduces this kind of pumping effect, which is not, again, not that great for what we're trying to do.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Trying to come along, we'll just hop up in the ride.
So we're going to have, you know, just...
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise.
A faster attack, I'm going to bring the threshold back down. A faster attack so where that it's not taking such a long time for it to grip that it's going to be pumping. But it's not immediately gripping to where we get maybe some artifacts or that the audio is just being slammed. So I'm going to let a little bit of the attack through.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been going up and we're doing this for life. Ain't about the cash, well then you can step aside. All my crew is lit, yeah.
All right, and so I'm looking at the needle on the compressor, and I'm kind of looking at it go back and forth, and I don't want it to go too drastically back and forth to where it's making all these changes. I kind of want it to be, you know, fairly gradual and just treating the vocal, you know, nice and easily.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride.
Now, I'm going to keep the ratio to 6:1, which, just FYI, if we put anything before this compressor, could cause some issues later, and I'll show you what I mean by that. But I'm getting the tone of the compressor. I wouldn't always use a 6:1. I like it on this compressor.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along.
Because I feel like it gives it a little bit more tone. Now, the second thing I want to look at is actually the sidechain low cut. Now, some compressor plugins have this feature, and what it's going to do is kind of low cut the signal before it reaches the compressor, so it's not going to react to any of the bottom end. That could be great for our vocal because we don't really want the needle to be pushing when there's a bunch of sub or anything like that. We want it to be reacting to the meat of the vocal, and basically we're probably going to actually want to scoop that out. Like, there's no reason for our vocal to be going in the sub in the first place. So why should the compressor react to the anyways? So that's something we could look at as well. I'm going to keep it on 80.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just...
It'll change the way the compressor reacts a little bit. And that's kind of it. That's kind of it for my compression. And I'm going to move on to the next thing. The next thing I would kind of think about is it would be multiband compression. And I took a few brief notes mixing into the clippers, the first one. Wanted to talk about some of the AI stuff, and I want to talk about multiband compression. I think this is a good point to do multiband compression. Okay, so multiband compression. What do we know? What do we think about it? What is it good for? Why are we using it? Well, a multiband compressor, if we think about it, is a compressor, maybe like 4 compressors at once working on different frequency ranges. And it's really actually tackling frequency ranges as opposed to the whole signal, and in that sense, it's kind of like an EQ, you know, whereas an EQ would work on different frequency ranges. Now, the benefit of using a multiband compressor is that it's not always reacting to the audio signal, where an EQ would be kind of like 100% of the time scooping out an area, as a multiband compressor might only scoop out that area whenever, you know, crosses a given threshold. Now, that could be useful for a few different reasons. One I can think of is, you know, cleaning up some of the low end. It would be really easy to scoop low end out of your vocal with a multiband compressor. What do I like to use it for? I love it to use for shaping the tone of my vocal. So, which multiband, you could use any one you'd like to, Fab Filter, the C6 from Waves. The one that I'm going to use, and the one that I feel like is very quick for me to dial in a nice sound, is the Mic DSP 404 plugin. Okay. Now, this plugin has 4 different bands. It's going to work on these 4 different frequency ranges, and it's going to have these 4 different thresholds. I'm not even going to worry about all the other stuff on this. It's kind of set, and that's why I like to use it. Is I don't really want to think about the attack and release times of this multiband compressor. That is too crazy to worry about 4 different attack and release times. And yeah, so I'm just going to worry about the threshold. I'll show you what it does, and we'll go from there. I also want to point out that one reason that we kind of like to use multiband compressors on a vocal track, and I think Tony Maserati said this the best, is that because it's not always reacting to stuff, it's kind of changing. It changes and evolves over time, which our ear kind of gravitates towards. Like, it gravitates toward these little changes in tones, sometimes little shifts and little kind of nuances that this audio track is now kind of dancing in these different frequency ranges and being compressed at certain times. And because it's changing over time, and you know, like everybody's ADHD nowadays, we like lots of change and it's pleasing to the ear. It'll kind of draw your ear in to listen for those little nuances. It could be so subliminal, but it is there. Okay, so I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna play the audio track now with the multiband compressor, and I'll tweak it. Tell you what I did. Or I'm just gonna play with the knobs. That's what I'm gonna do.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been going up and we're doing this for life. Ain't about the cash, well then you can step aside. All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been going up and we're doing this for life. Ain't about the cash, well then you can step aside. Yeah. All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been going up and all my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come.
So this is the low mids right here. It goes in order: low mids, high mids, highs. So I'm kind of gripping down the low mids.
All my crew is lit.
And a little bit of the mid highs. And what that's doing is kind of scooping out some of the bottom end. It's going to make it so it doesn't compete as much with the low end of my track, my 808s and my music. And I don't really feel like I'm losing anything. I feel like it levels out the frequency range so that it's more even.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride.
If I bypass it, you can definitely hear that a little bit more low end comes through on it. Okay?
All my crew is lit, yeah, we...
So the next thing I'd like to do is talk about how we can make this complementary. You know, what can we do any additive EQ? I know I hear some plosives in there that still need to be taken care of, and it kind of drives to my next point. Should you or should you not do EQ before or after your compression? And I'm going to give you my stance on that. I believe wholeheartedly you should EQ before your compressors so that your compressors react to your EQ'd signal, and it prevents you from going too out of control. The compressor will tame your EQ so that you don't make a huge mistake in I'll show you what I mean by that. So one EQ you might want to look towards is using an SSL style EQ. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this before my compressors. And one thing I might like to do is take out some of the bottom end, the sub, before my compressors. That might help the plosives a little bit.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop on the rise. Tryna come along. Rise, jump on the rise, on the rise.
Something like that. And then might want to drive up the top end.
On the rise, tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride.
Now you can see that I just drove that top end up by 9 decibels, which is kind of a lot of gain into that. But it's not really that harsh, is it?
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise, tryna come along.
That is because my compressors are kind of preventing me from going over the top with this. I want to show you what happens when you take this 9 decibel boost to the other side of this.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been going up and... All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been going up and all my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been going up and all my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just...
Well, you know, maybe I'm mistaken, because I don't really hear a difference. Perhaps it doesn't matter. You know, this is a learning experience for me and for you. I don't really notice too much of a difference, actually. But I have in the past, so that's kind of funny, huh? So forget about it. maybe it doesn't matter. I want to make sure that I do filter out before I hit this compressor, but I've also already high passed it, so the compressor doesn't react to the low end. So I've taken care of that already as well. But what I'm going to do anyways is try to make this complementary. I'm going to try to boost some things, maybe take some things out to make this kind of fit in the music better. And I'm not going to even play the music, but if I were playing the music, I'd EQ this with the music playing and seeing how I can make this fit in my mix and what kind of places sound good to boost or maybe to cut, and make it complementary with my music.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been going up, and all my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come.
Now, one thing I didn't even talk about yet is perhaps on my vocals, I might need a gate in the beginning. I can hear a lot of, so is rock plugin? A lot of stuff happening in the spaces, and I should probably cut that out.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been going up, and all my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride.
Okay, that's better now. I probably should have addressed that earlier. That might have been one of my steps to clean it up, and I totally forgot that. That's okay. You know, sometimes stuff happens like that. So we're talking about EQing into the compressor. The compressor is going to react to the EQ and bring the volume down. That's kind of the idea that I wanted to show you. It's not really doing a great job of doing this right now, but let's say I boost by 9 decibels into the compressor. The compressor is going to see that top end and then kind of tame the rest of the volumes down. So it's kind of keeping it more controlled without it going overly crazy with the change. So it's kind of keeping your changes to a minimum, which I think is good for EQ. You don't want to do too much aggressive change with this. I'm trying to sound like a different person.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride.
Okay, I'm pretty happy with this.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise.
The next thing that I might want to take a look at is, now that I've cleaned it up, I've compressed it, let's kind of look at some other complementary additive things we could do. One of those being saturation. Maybe we beef it up a little bit now. And I would consider looking at the ozone exciter. We take, of course, the new Ozone 10 exciter. Shout out Ozone. Love your plugins. Maybe, you know, just from 1 to kind of like our hearing range, around 1 to 6K, we use, you know, maybe like a warm, little bit of warm compression.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride.
Perhaps
we've been going up, and all my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise.
one of the different things.
We'll just hop up in the ride.
Now I can kind of adjust the tone in a little bit more fancy way with the saturation.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride.
I'm pretty pleased with what that is doing. It's kind of saturating that kind of range that you hear the best. If you look at the night or whatever, like the Nyquist curve or whatever the curve is that human hearing is. That's what it's saturating, and it sounds good to me.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride.
Okay, the last thing is that, you know, you potentially might want to clean this up, or just make sure that you're with all the compression that we did and all the saturation, that we're not kind of getting too aggressive with our S's and other stuff that might be being effective. So I might look at just de-essing again, so I can get a little bit more control on those.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been going up, and all my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise.
Cool. So that's kind of all that I wanted to show you. I feel like we've cleaned it up. We've made it up front. We've made it competitive, I believe. We've done some dynamic control. We've talked about some magic combination, but there's more to be said on that. And we try to complement the music, and there's a little bit more that we can do to complement the music. I have some buses here that I actually muted beforehand, but I'll unmute them now. And
all my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride.
just little delays and reverbs and stuff that we can add. If I play this with the music now.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Yeah, tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been going up, and we're all my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Yeah, tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been going up, and we're doing this for life. Yeah, ain't about the cash, well then you can step aside.
Yeah, and I can, let me A/B that with what I did on my own earlier. And we can see if, you know, I did the same thing or not. Looks like earlier I used the neutron exciter as opposed to the ozone one.
All my crew is lit, yeah, we all up on the rise. Tryna come along, we'll just hop up in the ride. We've been going up, and we're doing this for life. Yeah.
Well, I think that's very, very similar. I think we did a good job. Just to let you guys know, on my master bus, I do have some plugins. Just a little bit of saturation and EQ and limiting. And I can brush upon the mastering that I do on another video. I just really wanted to talk about vocals in this video. So let's kind of dive into some of these magic combinations. And I want to kind of conclude on this, this thought of, you know, what are the magic combinations? And, you know, this right here is a nice start to a vocal chain. It's got, you know, some de-essing, some EQ, some compression, some multiband compression, a little bit of control, some soothing, etc. Some saturation. It's got kind of all the elements you might go to look at to treat your vocals. And you know, some of these, for me, you know, my magic combination is, and this is my CO1B that's going into you know, MIG DSP 404. I really like putting the MIG DSP 404 after my EQ and after my initial compression to tone the vocal. I think that gives it a really modern kind of feel. But what I'd like for you to know is that this is not your end-all be-all vocal chain. Like, you need to go into your mix, find the reverbs, find the compression settings, find the de-essing, whatever, the top end, the excitement. What does the track need? Your magic combination is going to be what the track requires, okay? It is what, you know, what the magic combination is going to be is dependent on the mix that you're doing at the time. And you shouldn't rely on this combination of plugins, just copy and pasting every time. You need to listen to the music, and you got to get a feel of what it is that the song is going to need and what direction you'd like to go with it. You got to put a different hat on, your producer hat, and say, you know, this is going to sound good to this record because of this reason. But I think this is a really awesome starting point for you guys. You should think about some of these things that I've pointed out and run with it. See what you can do with it. And please ask me any questions you have. Drop them down in the comments. I'll answer. I'll do my best to answer all of the questions that you have. Stay tuned for some of my future videos where I go over maybe the mastering change or chain. If you have any video ideas, drop them in the comments so that I can make those videos for you. I'd be happy to do that. That would be awesome. Yet again, please, if you like the content that I'm posting, if you could like and subscribe and support my channel, that'd be awesome. I'd appreciate it very, very much so. Yet again, I am dropping an album on January 3rd. I hope you check it out. It'll be available on all platforms. And I'll post stuff on my Instagram at ill.rich and here on my YouTube channel. You can find me on Spotify by searching Rich Miller. And I hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Happy mixing. Get in contact with me, share me your stuff, and thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it.